Echoes of the Métis leaders that have passed on still haunt the land in a language that cannot be easily defined. Neither European nor Indian, but a fusion of the two, Métis people have gained a new identity and a new language.
No kom pangi go kwech mao de tau no kom tan she ni nan kai shil Michif yak in de tau no kompan and de teknosh sam ko itaman ke goito le bon jigi bak neo heli li kri li sortu li sio li anglais li ganayen li german ga kyogi bakit neo kimie wisto en lang te chin sto tato chek Ego kistanan ka o shiga o yak to kimiga o nan istanan en lang. Spiman tol bonjiga o shiga o yak to kimiga o nan pik skwewen. Ego an man ma Michif kashneka degto.
To the English I will not talk. To my own people I will tell of the fighting. Gabriel Dumont, July 1886.
1885 gipapas shiga o nan. En what nega o nan. Tita mo ke kiwta ho go yak.
You can be sure that we would have beaten them had it not been for Louis Riel, who always counseled us not to spill their blood. Gabriel Dumont.
Kya pitch not negewak. Kya pitch omen not negawanan.
The Michif language is the language of the Métis people in Canada. It's quite a unique language. It's a mixture of different languages. It's evolved a life and a word structure of its own. The difference, I guess, would then be the dialects of the First Nations languages that were mixed in. So in the prairies, it would be predominantly Cree, and the Cree French was what most people recognize as Michif. Although in the east, I believe that you see more of the Ojibwe language mixed in.
The linguist agwan man wi tamago nadik. Agwan man Michif kito agwan man France awiak tapsko yak ye ka pakan shit skaten peyekawa ye pakan ka big squat na do a French another nationality agwan man Michif ito.
Most Michif speakers today are fluent in neither Cree nor French.
Now ye kago kwechma tawana kia kai kito Michif niega kito. Tanchi shipik shkoyen ashkauk shkai akaki tiga wenami chip big shkwanan abedon a Cree big shkwan maka mon malvre Cree le français da kostan maga big shkoyan da malang shikito man nikinak shketen.
Michif is diverse. We're all different, just like we're all different colors. Our language is like that. If we come from beside lakes and we're fishermen, that's reflected in our language. If we come from the bald-headed prairie, that's reflected in our language. The landscape is a very, that's the foundation of our language, is the place we come from.
The Métis people live in every province in Canada. Not all of them even have the same ancestry, much less the same historical background, so summarizing their history as a group is difficult.
Ni zota wan kik linguas wistawa e atoskata kik kwek sketa kik wa mal Michif. Yi wistamago nanik to the nouns they're all in French to what the verbs are all in Cree. Gad li poisson gadon pahawak gadok washwe bichigan sketa. E wali poisson wan in noun French washwe bichigan wan here fishing sketa. Poschemaga ischiga de kuma la lang maga bachtahan.
They were able to take that oppressor's language and make it into something really beautiful, which is, and for that they were persecuted. I think about all the times that people would laugh at them because they were talking broken English. Those people, the way they used that English was beautiful. It was poetry.
Since Michif was a new language and not yet recognized as an official language, people scrutinized its beginnings and its form.
La nation c'est les mots c'est la langue. La langue. Wistamago when nakia. Agwa mina kutagak mina. kan hotek skita ke go nakia kan dusta go ta chesi pigs go yen ek so komina ek so ko tap sko toma ki spene kri pigs go yen e monia kan dusta stay kri ke ma chi kana ye kan dusta we wak stay kana ye afra se pigs go e quali siu li sotu li sene boy ka kyo le la ki be ga so ak so mina xne mot no ne guanos nista no me ki me ga ya ken la.
Language helps to explain your worldview, how you look at things and how you understand things. And by profession, I'm a biology teacher. I have a great love of the environment and the natural world, but I have only a single perspective of that through the English language. So for me, bringing it back is important because it would add to my understanding of the natural world through the understanding of another language, my language.
We don't learn to speak our language from somebody saying this is an apple and this is a potato in Cree, or this is animate and this is inanimate. We learn the language from the time we're in our mother's bodies before we're born, and we hear the music and the rhythm of that language. People are telling stories and they're talking and they're laughing. You know, so if we can retain storytelling tradition, people sitting around the kitchen laughing and talking and using it, it'll change because everybody's language changes.
This is Gabriel's Crossing near Batoche, a historical place that reminisces of past battles. A piece of history to some, it seems it had ended, but in reality, the battle continues to this day. Being a direct descendant of Gabriel Dumont and living on his land, Maria Campbell makes this her home where she continues her work as a writer, playwright, and filmmaker.
I started working on the stories that I've translated and wrote Lowndes people probably about 22 years ago. And it took me probably about 10 years to translate those. It was lots of work. I've never worked so hard on anything in my life. And what I did when I translated them the first time, I translated them in proper English, what's considered proper English. And the stories just died. They didn't work. They lost their life, their humor, their humanity. And I put them away for a long time because I didn't know what was wrong and I didn't know what to do.
Native people pass their stories orally through each generation, but written stories are the contemporary form, and with this comes problems that artists must face and solve.
I was listening to my dad telling stories to my children one day. He was cooking and he was telling my kids stories, and my ears heard something different. He used English in the same rhythm and dialect and inflections and tone that we spoke Michif and Cree at home, except that he was speaking English. And the stories just, they came to life because I was able to capture that music or rhythm and power of the storyteller.
Storytelling requires special skills and talents and many years of practice and teachings.
Instead of just having a straight story, you have layers and layers of story, because language is not just words. Language is sound, it's rhythm, it's music, it's body language. So when you're translating the words, you also have to take into consideration the body language, because in the story you can't go like this, you know, or the storyteller doing that. So you have to find a way to build it into the language.
Documenting a language in a non-traditional, non-oral form is a challenge.
You know, culture changes, it doesn't stay still. And language is the same way. Everybody says our language is dying. I don't think our language will really ever die if those of us who care about it preserve it and we don't forget that stories and language go together.
Stories that are told in Michif, as well as any other Aboriginal language, loses its true meaning and essence if told in just the English language. The history of Métis people is very colorful indeed, although the historical treatment as a people by the government is a tenuous one. The subsequent dispersals left feelings of lost roots and further displaced extended family traditions.
Tandi tigo ustinia. Den tat gin tawagen dalboa. Namo Denville, namo mide den pital. Crescent Lake is kaiteo kayasmana. Ki upigian Crescent Lake Saskatchewan kistikaiteo. Ekse 1961 kemachi 1962. Giveaway ni gawanan. Ni ganakusje. Monya ki kutik pitstewek. Die familie penatewak. Kutak dili velki tutahewak aksel simezo ki pe messamok.
A migration of people occurred during this period because of many reasons that involved their survival.
The dispersal, the Métis dispersals, kayas me kakapek shiki tutago na. Ekchipigwite oli Michif kaki kakwe wigichik. La nasyo ma kaki kakwe wisitatik. La teroma kiapet ni nan diste nan et pestemak. Namo et pestemak abud no rent tabarak. Moi pihtamat ja, moi kakasta latiersti pihtak. Kakio meki miko yakuma. Chiwiki yakuta, akonista nanuta. Moi oka gal muksi mago ksitihtamak. Uyo tihtamak ma katipihta kiki vai. Uyo opiko. Kapetuma tuska makoma nost. Apea la teruma, la nasiuma, kapetuma kakio. Magan mumini me gaunan. Ja, tansitego mat.
Long overdue recognition and redress is what the Métis people desire and speak out on as one of the founding peoples of this country.
Kiapitsuma was trying to fight the rights question at the moment to be recognized as a nation. First Nations are recognized as a nation in Canada. The Inuit are recognized as a nation in Canada. The Métis people aren't recognized yet as a nation.
They're not going to give us the opportunity to be who we are. We are Sagitawa Métis Nation. That this is our land. The fur block that we got in the 40s, that is what we're claiming. I want the provincial and the federal government to prove to me, the Métis, that this land does not belong to the Métis. Prove it to me, then I'll understand. Other than that, I'm not going to prove it to you. This is my land. I've been here even before Canada ever existed.
The Métis people of Isle Cross began to research, study, and document their history and language due to the expanding type of documentation needed.
Wonniesen stohtamaan apihtogossaan pikskuin igi usihtsagati uten in this area, Isle Cross. Ahtayaga tau it's be the fur trade. Expiugo apistogos ni stogoso agita kohtiitsik from Agamaske. They were tapskoma na history ga sikata che kuor de boapa ga sikata. Yawan gigi pita che stogosi piksku when gigi matek sku o tohse language tohse gispui payo.
The people had recognized that they had to create their own models to serve their needs.
School board ne anan sagita ninanit pihtamagan. Ninanigi matspaihta our own school board. We decided at that time to preserve the Métis language. Snahamo agawasak in school apistogos piksku. Every year we have a Michif language cultural day where we invite Xinu Aglotugiso Xiseta Piksquit Taxnamo Tekuskaya Dansita Piksquit Pistogos and Piksquit.
Isle Cross is very unique. Isle Cross, There is no other place anywhere in Canada that speak like us. We talk old French. We don't talk Canadian French. We talk Acadian French, Nova Scotian French. We talk the old France French. We don't talk the Quebec French. That's the new French.
Toen mama ging op school, so deeltijd op French age. Hij met hem zeggen ik schiet op French. Ik zijn die staan aan steek zie kiwe gawe tamakot. Nimi tina ja. Dalla tanta ayan. Si se mina magi ko la payasas ten mi kwamin. Ik wil het stappen na gespentaan ko la shesh. Niyo ya muhian da pasuguyana. Amit sa la porchet dapat sihtal ko to la cuillère ko nagakil. Kap na wasuan pe ko le group porchet. Le grand cuillère.
We guys from a man Michif, there was, a certain language. Just man when I was in the city, Pirman Waganyan from Thunderchild. You are one Nikawak man. Agam Niwam Strosho. Siski Kats Mustawaga. Pitos Tunukwesi ni here we talk.
Nan dapat tinana petogosanak that we have the true language of Canada because the language was made in Canada and developed in Canada.
If we can understand that Michif is our first language, is the first language for me, for us, then if we start speaking it, we can preserve it.
Apo kanya nan mo ay wag dat niyo. Ano nista kagwe ka simo ya? Tani hitim ne kon maga spike.
Different Métis towns share the same vision of preserving their languages.
Gam ye ten chot chap ta ma gotik. Chwap maya ko kwistaw. Chipik shwe chiklu langwa. Chikshna mage yak dal izikol. Chikshna mage yak dal university.
Gabriel Dumont Institute is an educational arm of the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, and we publish Métis education resources that everybody will be more well educated on the language and the lifestyles of Métis people. And if things, continue going the way they are going, where they're like actually setting aside like an Aboriginal component in the curriculum, I think that it will.
Believe ye gido tan ane ke ka kwech maya ko tan shikaya shikishpayek. E wangi wit tamago na ne ke ogon he ka kwek skate tamak tan shikaya shli Michif manaki ekish match ko shikaya skate. Agon match skate tamok li chi e gon wit tamana ne ko gon he. Tan dek show yak chidor na to nakchi mishka on Michif language materials. I go show my sanctioning center ka wi ushita na daw. Gam ye tension na tamak news na radio ke kwek shi tat Michif chipik skwechik. Gam ye tendal TV uta kipik skwyak mischet. Agon ma chabat stayak tap daw. Au yek chipet takun mal Michif sketen.
Well, Miss Nipiata Mongan Tohtamik, he would do my access to a second annual National Michif Language Development Conference to Gatio. Dan situ tagisim Chimuskama Homasoa
Chikinakinan, Octasapaka Yokamach Pike.
Learning a language begins at home, and communities build and strengthen this voice together. Strengthening ties and relationships as friends, family, or as a nation begins with children. Children are an important link to this connection as they listen, watch, and learn.
Educate and Okshagai speaks with Michif, no Shishimak. Because Nanoshpayane, the way Mark no Shishimak peak square Michif. Maparatis a plaka peak square Michif.
To the Métis people, looking to the future for their children yet to come is always a part of their vision. The Métis people from all regions still gather to celebrate their history and culture, be it at big gatherings such as Back to Batoche Days, Métis Fall festivals, or even community suppers. Families encourage and support each other as they practice old traditions, as they discuss future possibilities.
Putiwe 1885 no giuta hoga na chiao uma kapas sige. Namo ma ka giuta hoga na. Kya puto dayana.